So I have an idea. Let me ask you this. How's your podcast going?
It's hard to find motivation, but I've been doing a podcast with a co-host, and it's been a lot easier for me to get to do that. When I'm beholden to someone else, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go.
So when you say it's the motivation, like what's hard about it? Like why are you? Because you're a pretty motivated person. What's the problem?
Yeah, no, I think I made this podcast to be an educational tool, and I don't have a lot of new things to say. It's like a lot of the modules on how to do what I've done and get to where I'm at have already been described and gone over so many times. And since I'm not traveling as much, there's not so much content.
Right.
It's still there, I just don't feel as passionate about recording as I did. Like for a while, I loved it, but the bug hasn't come back to be like, yo, you got to do more.
Right. Well, I also have to imagine that the landscape has really changed a lot. What there is to talk about, if you already covered it, like how many times can you keep saying the same shit? It's like, do the work.
That's one thing, but the landscape changing is actually, you hit the nail on the head there, because the podcast was a tool for not just entertainment, but education, but also self-promotion. The thing is now the marketplace doesn't have any mountains to climb. Now it's just a plateau. So I'm running off of my name, my reputation, and my standing. And there's no need to play the new hotspot because there is no new hotspot.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just basically, at this point, I'm just hitting rotations. And every now and then a new club will pop up, but they're so few and far between that doing all the work that I used to do is not necessary. Now I just call people and say, put me on for this regular gig at this regular club, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I have DJs hit me up. Like this week, I sold 3 EPKs, right? And I actually talked to the people. I'm like, so why are you buying this EPK? Like, what's your goal? You know what I mean? And everyone's like, oh man, I want to get to the point of traveling and, getting out there and getting bookings for stuff like that. And I'm like, is that really happening anymore? Is that happening in the same way that it was? I don't think it is.
Number one, it's not. And number two, that sentence, I just want to travel, that is, I did a whole presentation about this at a DJ convention. It's the equivalent of someone who wants to be retired and they picture themselves on a beach drinking a drink. Right. So then the presentation was basically like, how did you get to this beach? What'd you pay for? Did you pay for the drink in cash? How long are you staying there? Can you actually take this vacation? Do you have your savings? It's details. So when people say, I want to travel, it's like, what club? It's like, I don't know, anyone that'll have me. I'm like, that's not good enough. You have to have a target. And if they say, oh, I want to play at Sway, you're like, have you ever been to Sway? No. Well, how do you know you want to play there? That fallacy of I want to travel has so many holes in it. It's so beyond the starting. It's not even the starting line. You're not even lacing your boots.
I 100% agree with you. It's so funny too, because one of the things that's difficult about this job that I do, like I realize that everything I do and everything that people know me for is helping other people pursue their, you know what I mean? Like my whole career.
You're selling dreams.
Yeah, my whole career is helping people pursue their dream. Now, here's the thing. I don't really sell dreams. I'm very, very careful about that. Like, I don't sell the dream. I sell the tools necessary to pursue them. You know what I mean? Like,
fair enough.
That's what I sell. But the large majority of people are going to fail. They're not going to. They're not going to achieve what they're going for, right? And there's an emotional stress that comes with this because number one, they're putting all this faith into. I'm going to get this EPK and then I'm going to get bookings. And I'm like, hold up, you know what I mean? Like, just relax. And then they drive me nuts over these things too. Like this one kid was going over some details, and I'm like, oh man, listen, bro, I know bookers. The reason they ask for your EPK is because it eliminates 1,000 that are hitting them up every week for booking. They say, do you have an EPK? And that eliminates a bunch of people right from jump. But most of them, they don't read these things. I was just going to tell you, no one's reading your 2-page bio. The little detail of the one edit you did 3 years ago is on there. Like, I'm just being honest. You're worrying about the wrong things. And I know that. So, like, that's the thing that's kind of disheartening. And while I love seeing people have that excitement and that belief, I know what's behind the curtain of The Wizard of Oz. You know what I'm saying? I know it's back there. You're still trying to see it. I've been there. I'm telling you what's behind the curtain, and you're not even listening to me. So, like, it's like there's a big part of this to me that is emotionally stressful because they have this daydream where they believe they're going to get to this point in this industry that might not even exist anymore. There's so much of this that's fake, and you're pursuing this thinking that the big payday's coming, or everyone's waiting for someone to come save them, and it's just like, it's not coming. But what happens is they love me as I'm helping them because they initially start getting all this, people are paying attention. They got a new look. All their friends are commenting. A couple new things come out of it. But then as they either find out that it's not real or it doesn't transpire in the way that they want, they start treating me different. It's almost like they want to place the blame on me, like it's my fault. Like I played a part in helping you pursue this thing, but you're pursuing something that might not be real. And when you find out it's not real, all of a sudden I'm the bad guy and you don't want to pay me. You want to pursue these things, but you don't want to pay for what it costs to go there. You're just thinking that you're going to get to the point that somebody's going to come in, you're going to make all this money, and then the amount I'm charging ain't a big deal. But you're waiting for that to happen. And it's just like, nah, man, like this shit is all like a multi-level marketing scheme at this point. Like you got to pay to participate. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And they pop a couple people up there and they're like, hey, look at them. They're making all this money. And you look at them and you're like, oh man, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And they make you think that this shit is real. Like it's not.
Honestly, it's just investment in the sector. If you have $1 million to invest, why would you open a club when you can open 2 restaurants? The margins aren't as good. They're not as good when you sell food, but the margins on bottle sales are astronomical. And that's why we had a big boom in the 2000s with all these clubs.
It was the gold rush. Like that's what that was.
Yeah, but the relationship with the new generation alcohol and going out is completely different. So that margin is gone.
Yeah, I remember nightlife before that, and it was lots of fun. People dance. It wasn't about the bottles. Like all that shit.
Yeah, so back then, like, that was the social time.
You pay a cover at the door, and usually if you're a promoter, you get the door, the venue gets the bar, and that was the deal. And then all of a sudden, the bottle service came in. That's where stuff started becoming free, you know, and people got used to no cover at that time because they were just basically depending on a couple rich people to come in that they're going to make all their money off of these 3 guys here, and everyone else kind of doesn't matter. And I think a lot of people got drunk on that success and thinking that's what it was.
Yep. There's a whole city based on that. It's called Las Vegas.
Yeah. The thing is, it's always somebody's birthday. That's what bottle service is now. If someone's having a birthday, they're going to convince 17 of their friends to chip in. And that's all it is. Like, I don't know. The general nightlife thing, it doesn't exist in the same way anymore. It just doesn't. And when I see these new kids that are just now reaching out to me and giving me the conflict marketing plan from 13 years ago, we're not in that time anymore. You missed it. It's over.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go.
Right.
There's just nowhere to go. At this point, a lot of the middle is being cut out. The middle guys that aren't at the top, like I'll put myself at the top just for the sake of this example. The middle guys that are under me don't have the ability to make money anymore. So they're out. So then all that leaves is the top 1%, which is me and a bunch of other guys that are the veterans. And then the next tier down is way down. Like kids that just only know how to play on USB sticks, or kids that have no idea what they're doing. So then that gap is so big that they really have no chance.
You know, it's funny that you say that because there's a girl I'm cool with and she's trying to be a singer, right? A pop singer. And, you know, I'm friends with her. So I legitimately like try to talk sense. I'm like, listen, you know, there's no money in this anymore, right? Like the money's been pulled out. Unless you're getting syncs and in commercials and stuff like that, good luck. But you have to understand, like the same way that Hollywood just keeps making Marvel movies because they know that people are going to come to that and they're not making the brand new fresh idea. Today, after COVID, all of the famous people that you know, the large majority of them are flat broke. And they now need to come back out and they're going to start doing shows and they're going to start putting out product and all this other stuff. So now you're competing with all the people that had a buzz back in the day and could come out and kind of dwarf whatever you're doing because they have the name power and they're the easier sell for whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yep. Like I just watched this thing, bro. It was a Bob Marley video made with AI. I was like, this is incredible. So what's going to get my attention? Even though I know it's AI, what am I going to watch? I'm going to the name. And that's the landscape that we're in. Like everybody who's trying to still, quote unquote, make it is competing against a bunch of people that need to get back in it because they have no choice.
Yeah, so you just described kind of the same tier system that I did. People with a lot more competing against people that have no idea where to start.
So let me ask you this. What are these clubs even paying now? What are the numbers looking like?
So out of town rate, the best that I'm getting is a hotel room.
Okay. You gotta get yourself there. Okay.
Yeah, I gotta get myself there. When you travel, that's pretty much it. But Vegas is operating under a very weird circumstance. They're just riding the coattails of 40 million tourists a year, but in a declining sector. So there's entire offices of people that just rotate big acts and then have them sell tickets. And that used to be like when you had a vision of where you wanted to be as a DJ, you wanted to be a Vegas resident. That was like the pinnacle. You know, it started with AM back in 2004 or 5 with his $1 million contract. Everyone's like, oh, you can do that? Well, let's try. But now that's been gone. There's nothing.
Let me ask you this. I don't really follow the EDM world. That's obviously a separate entity completely from the open format guys. But like, what's going on with them? Are they still rocking or are they just doing the festival circuit?
It's really the same situation in other sectors. Yeah, the big 30 at the top will draw and sell tickets. The entire middle was wiped out.
Got it.
The guys at 20, not 20, well, where are we at, 2025? The guys at 15 years ago were pulling in 30, 40K because Deadmau5 was 250 and Aoki was 200. The guys that were pulling 30 and 40K, those guys are working at furniture stores, bro. Like, they're fucking gone.
Right.
It doesn't exist anymore because a venue's not going to pay you 30,000. No one knows who you are anymore. Right. There used to be EDM songs where there would be like 4 artists credited. So you would have like Tiesto featuring this guy, that guy, and this guy. And those 3 guys
do DJ gigs for the next year off of that, right?
Exactly. And the market dried up, and now that song, no one plays it anymore, so no one gives a shit. So that guy that was doing literally millions per year off of one song is out of the marketplace.
Yeah.
Tiesto's still in it.
Yeah, of course. One thing I noticed, there were new EDM DJs coming out of nowhere. Like, they were just manufacturing them in a factory. I was like, who is this person? The one guy, what's his name? I think it's John Summit, I think it is. He's from Chicago. All of a sudden, he was huge, and I was just like, I've been in Chicago for years. I've never heard of this fucking dude. Who's John Summit? You know what I'm saying? Like, he was like a paralegal.
He's a unique situation because I think he comes from money, like a lot of money or something.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a situation where he's one of, so like the market will still churn up a new one every now and then. Mm-hmm. He's one of them.
Right. Okay.
So he's the new guy because there's still some demand. It hasn't gone to zero, but it's nowhere near what it used to be, where there was 10 of those guys per month back in the day.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, the fact is, with the right machine and the right marketing, you can make a star out of anybody. That's just the truth of it. Yes. You know, that's what it is. Yep. And that's the part about it that people don't really get. You know, you got these people that just don't want to spend any money at all. And it's just like that organic, like you think you're going to make it. I thought about this, right? How many artists have been discovered on YouTube? You could obviously name one of them because everyone goes to the same one.
I mean, I can't even think of one, honestly.
Okay, I'll help you. Justin Bieber.
Yeah, but he wasn't on YouTube. Usher discovered him. I'm pretty sure it was an in-person presentation.
From what I understand, somebody saw his video on YouTube because he was making videos at home. They saw his YouTube video and he made it from that.
I don't know. Also, when did Justin Bieber's career flourish? Because remember, YouTube is 2008.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. I mean, I'm just using it as an example. So let me go one step back, right? How many people do you think someone just has to see their video online and then they're going to get a call one day and their life's going to change?
More than half of all the artists that exist.
Correct. Everyone thinks, man, I'm just going to do this thing. I'm going to put this up and someone's going to see it. That's the thought process. They don't understand the machine of money that they're competing against. Like, you know, the chance of just randomly going viral on some shit, you might as well play scratch-off tickets. Probably got a better chance with that, to be honest. And I know a few people that hit $1 million on a scratch-off. You probably got a better chance. But the thought of that, when I think about it, the NAMM convention that just happened recently was apparently the busiest one yet. And it's just like the amount of equipment that's been sold, home studios, the amount of cameras that have been sold for people that want to upload shit. And granted, taking music aside, now you just have people trying to be influencers, but like the amount of stuff that's sold for people to upload all this shit to pursue, thinking that something is going to come in and save them is insane. It really is insane. And then when you think about that and you're competing against companies that are pursuing that same thing and have budgets, and that's what you're competing against, if you're not willing to spend money, good luck, because your talent isn't going to make it. There's a ton of talented people to choose from. You know what I mean? So then the equation starts being like, okay, are they talented and do they have good marketing? Okay, well, that's good. Are they talented marketing and they got good social media numbers? Oh shit, no, they sell tickets too? Oh, like it's like these factors that get added on the people to make them valuable for why they end up getting bookings for shows or getting gigs or whatever. And when people are not realistic about this game that they're in, this shit is disheartening for me. And again, like that's the area where I'll be the first to admit, I've sold a lot of EPKs to people that probably shouldn't have been playing out. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I don't know. I'm just taking marketing materials and putting them together, but like, I'm very good at polishing turds. I'm excellent at it. But there's a part of me that feels bad about it too. Like, I feel like I'm a contributor to the problem.
I don't know if you're a contributor to the problem. I could see where your brain gets there, but you're taking kind of a leap because your job is not to vet talent. Your job is to create a visual portfolio of who they are. What happens after that is beyond you. That's like, there's lots of, this is a big leap here, but there's lots of gun stores, but nobody that owns a gun store goes to bed at night going, man, I hope nobody that I sold a gun to kill someone. It's like, once that gun's sold, it's like, I did my job. I'm just a seller.
You're also a logical thinker. You understand what it is, because I'm in agreement with you about that. I am. The part of me that actually loves this shit, like loves it, like the way the girl in Almost Famous described being a groupie and she loved being a fan. At the end of the day, I love this culture. That's why I got involved in it. I love the nightlife. I love music. I love making things happen. But it's heartbreaking in a lot of ways. Nightlife is a fad for most people in their 20s. Maybe they used to go out when they were in college. But the large majority of people don't ever go to clubs. They don't go out. So it's like there's this bubble that we're in. And I love the bubble. But then also this bubble has been just pimped out and sold and destroyed in a lot of ways. That's the part about it that I'm like... I'm just being honest.
I have a couple of thoughts. Let me see if I can kind of get through all of these, and then you can tell me what you think. The first one is, most of all artists that ever existed, we don't know because they never made anything. They never made it. Maybe they got as far as creating what they create, sound, visual, or other, but they were lost because they didn't make it for whatever reason. So most of all artists were never successful. Maybe we were victims of a time where there was a boom. It was a perfect convergence of the internet with artistry. But before it gets to where it is now, we were able to find new people all over the world with the advent of the internet. And it's like, wow, that DJ from California, would have never heard him before, but now on MySpace I can hear him, and wow, he's really good. So then what happened is clubs started booking them. Instead of you stay local to California, now you can go all over the world to showcase your talent, because it was still, as it's always been in art, merit based. Now,
hold that thought though. I just want to say this one quick thing. The thing is, there was a bunch of DJs who were famous and traveling that had made it to levels before all that internet shit. Before what you're even talking about. What you're saying is it made it more frequent for more people to be able to have that as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So the market always existed for artists to do things, right? To this day, if you want, you could paint and sell a painting. But we encountered a situation where a lot of different things converged. It was a great time for art. It was a great time for music, for nightclubs, for nightlife, for socializing, because it was like peaking right before the fucking iPhone came out. And so now, obviously, and the merit-based thing is real important, because the DJs that were able to travel before the internet were specifically chosen because of their talent. So we still, I think you and I maybe have this idea that talent is, maybe not us, because we're having a real conversation here, but I think the market might still think that it's a merit-based ecosystem when that hasn't been true for years. It's no longer merit-based. It doesn't matter if you're good. It matters a lot of other things. So we got to live through so much, and it's like this weird twist of different modules of, people know you all over the world because of this internet, and you're good, so go play. And we still think it's that, or people might still think it's that, but it's not. It's gone. We just haven't realized it yet. The train has left the station, and we're still standing there waiting to get on. And I'm not sure what happens next. It definitely is a bummer, having lived through some of the best nightlife years that ever existed. I mean, think about it. Nightclubs have been around for a really long time. Disco clubs, dance clubs, et cetera, et cetera. But we lived through probably the biggest boom of nightlife that has ever happened in humanity.
Yeah, it's 100%. Because if you look at just the trend, nightclubs weren't a thing. They became a thing in the 70s and 80s, with the most famous one that everyone would know being Studio 54. But you can't name 10 other clubs from that time. That was an icon. And then after that, our generation, at least for me, I was going to teen clubs because they were advertising clubs for teenagers with no alcohol. And we would go in there by the hundreds. And that's what we used to do. And that was the thing. But it's not that anymore. It's going to a shift. In the same way that our grandparents never went to nightclubs when they were a kid, our kids are not going to go to nightclubs anymore. It's going to be this thing that they're like, what are you talking about? My grandfather and his father, they went to the neighborhood bar. You know what I mean? Like the bar was like the spot, and you did everything there. You celebrated birthdays, people who died, you go there for the wake. That was everything for them. And that's kind of what I think the club was, at least for me.
I don't think it's going to go away. I I think it's kind of become but again, it'll never compare to the 2000 to 2015 boom, a 15-year boom of nightclub all over the world. That's over.
Yeah.
And gone. So these kids that are chasing EPKs are doing it based on the ghost of what I used to do.
Yes.
Like
100%.
That ghost is it's not real.
It becomes a myth at some point, right?
It is.
Like, it's myth. It's a myth. 100%. Like, it happened.
Yeah, it's gone. So they're chasing a ghost that they think that your plasma pack is going to help them capture.
Right.
And you're selling them plasma packs, and then you feel bad because you're like, okay, here you go. Good luck ghost hunting.
Good luck with that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's definitely the truth. That's definitely the truth. And there's always going to be people that are pursuing stuff. I'm probably going to get hit up till the day I die. Like you said, it's not going to go away completely. People are always going to need something because there is functional stuff. But like the days of it being what it was, it's not going to be that anymore. And I guess the part that I find difficult, and even in the music industry, so many people are chasing these things that, again, I know what's behind the curtain of The Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
And then also that whole Diddy thing, when you think about that whole situation is really nuts when you think about like the amount of people that were like lost to be famous. Like, what the it bugs me out. Really does.
Yeah, but it's not new either. Like, there's a famous story of a Hollywood producer that had his office, and behind his office was a bedroom.
For sure.
It's you want the part. I know.
The famous casting couch.
I think we probably just thought again that it was merit based. Like the Harvey Weinstein thing is huge. You always know that kind of stuff is happening. You just don't know to what degree, because we're not pieces of shit. So so then you find out to what degree it is, and you go, holy. How is that even possible?
You hit the nail on the head. You knew it existed. What I probably didn't understand was the amount of it. And that's the whole thing about just the celebrity culture in general, though, of like, again, the idea of making it, the idea of you now made it to the point that you're getting paid money that is life-changing money. And that concept, there's so much of it that's just not real. And I was enchanted by this in a way as well. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll be the first to admit, like going to the Grammys, the Beyonce song, it was a wild ride. It was insane. But there were so many factors in it that I'm just like, okay, people talk about stuff, but I know what it really was. And they're still talking about it in a way that I'm like, man, you don't even know.
So I understand. And that dissatisfaction with it, I understand it as well. I don't feel it, but I understand it. And I just had a thought here is maybe it's a hope. I don't know what made more money, movies or music. But I do know that there was a reshuffling in the movie world. And you're right, Hollywood only makes what they know is going to get them money, because they had a huge transition period as well with the removal of DVDs. So you ever heard Matt Damon talk about it? Right. But the reshuffle now has happened in a way where you used to move to Los Angeles to become an actor. Now you don't have to. Now there is Apple, there's Netflix, there's Amazon, and they're all creating content. So if you had a dream to be an actor and go to Los Angeles and make it big, now you just have to shift a little bit and be like, well, let me see what's available for me to make it big, because there are people producing series and TV shows and Netflix things, but it's no longer in LA. It might be in Atlanta. It might be somewhere else. It might be in Montreal. So now I think there's going to be even more ability than there was for the last 15 or 20 years to be an actor, because there's so much more content being pumped. Maybe we get to something like that for the music world, for the club world, but I don't know. I can't see. I don't have a crystal ball that is that clear.
Yeah. So to go on that point, I think that if you have a skill that's transferable to something that could actually sell tickets and put bodies in the door, you could make money. Again, if you're a DJ and you can promote yourself well enough that every time you come into town, people are going to come out to see you, people will book you. That's what it is. But the idea that you're going to put out a song and that song's going to get picked up by all this stuff and you're going to make all this money off that song, that no longer exists. It just doesn't.
And I would also say, think about it like this. You mentioned that if you have the ability to sell tickets, or that you'll still make it. But I look at it like this. Imagine that there's a barren wasteland where no talent exists. It's not, oh, what can you bring? Can you bring people? Do they know your name? There's just no talent. It just becomes so stretched out and so thin that just by virtue of you being good at what you do, even if you're an unknown to the people that are going, because you're good at it, it's such a different dynamic than everything else that you just become a thing that people go to because you exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And I think that the DJ world is getting there. That's where we're getting to.
Yeah, so I listen to all day long while I design. I watch live mixes, like on YouTube, live DJ sets. Like, I won't say Boiler Room anymore, but they're still around. But there's a bunch of those networks now that have some DJ come and they play. And there's all different channels. There's June in Paris. There's places that are pretty frequent about it. And the thing is, every day, I probably listen to about 5 different new DJs who I've never heard of. Because, I design for 15, 20 hours, so that's a lot of time. At least 5 new DJs that I've never heard of. And I had one person stand out to me in the last 6 months. The rest of them, they could all do the job, but nothing about them stands out. There's nothing about them that I'm like, oh my God. They're all good.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're good enough that they got a call to be on this live stream, but like, you know, there's nothing about it that's like, holy, you know what I mean? And I think
because the definition of what's good has shifted. Again, it's no longer merit-based.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying with that, though, is the landscape, I don't think it's a barren wasteland. What it now is
not yet.
It's filled with a bunch of people that are, everyone's proficient. So you got to be excellent at something and not just proficient in order to stand out. And everybody who's proficient has their friends and family being like, man, you can take this all the way, because they're still thinking that this is the model from 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, everybody is talking to them and being like, listen, oh man, you know, everyone's got their friend who's the person who does this, and everyone's got a friend at this point who's a DJ who plays out. You know
I would argue that it is a barren wasteland, because what does barren mean? It means that there's nothing. Okay, if everyone's the same, you just said 6 months, 5 DJs, let's say that you've heard 350 DJs and one stands out, right? If the entire field is the same, there's nothing that sticks out. So it is a barren wasteland of talent. It's a talentless wasteland. So now the one that stuck out, you go, oh, there's something. And so that's what I'm getting at. The fact that it's a big homogeneous pile of everyone's the same. Everyone gets the same music from the same place. I put out a question on my Instagram. If you're under 25, what do you consider a quality of a good DJ? And I got very few responses because everyone is older, but it was song selection. So really, their merit is based upon what the person is playing, not everything that we know makes a good DJ.
Yeah.
And so there's the answer. The answer is that they're entertained by the simplest trick.
I mean, look, this is another thing too. In the house music world, I was with Terry the one time, and a DJ was asking, man, what do I have to do in order to get to your level? And he said to him, he goes, you got to produce music. That's the trick to getting onto the festivals. You have to have songs that are out. You can't just be a good DJ. You have to have product out that they get attached to it. But I don't necessarily know if that's true anymore. Kind of like in the comedy world, at one point you had to have the sitcom, but now comedians, you could just be a stand-up comic and travel around and make enough money doing stand-up, when before you needed the sitcom. Right? So like now, if you're a standout DJ that's just really, really good at DJing, you don't need to have production. I don't think that that's a necessary component. It maybe helps in giving people an extra talking point when it comes to press. If people read press, I don't know.
So I agree with your idea, but I disagree with a lot of the data behind it. Producing music is still the way to do it. The thing is, everyone knows now that they have to produce music. So what happens is you create another huge field of people, and the noise becomes too thick for anyone to cut through again. So everyone knows what Terry's telling this person. Whoever that person is so far behind, because everyone that's in the game knows that they got to make music for the festivals, because they've watched it 35 times play out, where some kid is in his college dorm, makes a song, and then he's headlining Ultra.
Trying
it's like,
to
oh shit, how'd you do that? Figuring out how to DJ, because he's got no fucking clue. So I think what you were saying was making a song's not going to get you there. Honestly, nothing will get you there, because it is a lottery ticket. What we'll come back to, and every time, is that, which is why I quit producing. I was making music with Joe Maz. Yeah. And so what I realized was, you said scratch off ticket. I say throwing a bullseye at 100 yards, because you have an infinite amount of darts, and darts are time and energy. So if you're 21 years old, you can throw as many darts as you want at that board 100 yards away, and maybe one will stick. Now, if you're 35 and you got kids, you have a lot less darts.
Yeah, no.
Is it worth trying? My answer was no.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something you enjoy doing, then I think you should do it. But you said, I remember you saying that you weren't really into it that much.
Yeah, I love DJing. I like producing.
That's how you said it, right? Because again, we only have so much time. You know, for me, obviously, I had a crazy run. If I had kids, I wouldn't have been able to do what I did for 2 years straight. You know what I mean? Like, that wouldn't have been an option in the same exact way. Like, it just wouldn't have been. There's no way. And on top of that, I also had the money. So it's just like, I wasn't as concerned with how much something was paying, because I'm like, do I want to do it? Cool. And when you start bringing in other factors that come with the hurdles of life, if you want to call them that, they make it a lot harder to compete. For example, the thing I just did this weekend, I took a lower number than what I would normally take to do something like that. The thing was, I wanted to do it. But if I had a bad month in January, I wouldn't have gone and done that for that number. And that's one of the areas where I don't understand people, because if I want something, I'm going to get it. And if I'm doing something it for me, I want it to be the best quality thing. Like, that's how my mind thinks. And I understand that I might have to do these 3 jobs in order to pay for this thing, but that's what I want, right? So when people are calling me and they're like, I want my stuff to be the best, but then they're like, I only want to pay $200 for the logo. I'm like, you want it to be on everything? You want this logo to last forever? You know what I mean? And it's not even like I charge thousands. I charge $500, and people will argue about these numbers. And I'm just like, do you want to do this? I don't understand it. Because again, I love this so much that I think people constantly are like, well, this particular thing doesn't maybe make this. And I'm just like, okay, you're thinking small. Because at the end of the day, especially with what I do, it's the long-term effect of something. And that's something that I'd be a gazillionaire if I got residuals on that. But I don't. You remember when the clubs used to like pay promoters and they'd be like, write your name on the back of the flyer, and everyone who brings the flyer, you know, you'll get $5 or whatever it is. But if you went out and passed out 5,000 flyers and you put it in people's hands and they saw it and they got the idea, how many of those people came and just didn't bring the flyer?
Right.
You know
There's no way to track. There's no way to track what you do in that manner anyway.
No way to measure that. You don't know if that thing I did for you caught the eye of somebody that 3 months from now, they're calling you because they remember that thing. There's no measurement of that. If you're going, well, this week I only got 4 DMs off of the post I put up, everything is not about the numbers.
You had mentioned that you had an idea when we first started the call. Yeah. You're like, oh, I had this idea. What idea was it?
So the podcasting, I don't necessarily think that ship has sailed, but if I'm going to do it, I don't want to do it the same way that everyone else does it. I'm actually going to just call people, have interesting conversations with people like this.
That's a good idea.
So ironically, and this was actually my plan, this was the idea. So thank you.
Sounds
it worked.